Broadcasting live from the Business RadioX studios in Phoenix, Arizona, it's time for Phoenix Business Radio, spotlighting the city's best businesses and the people who lead them.
Hello, Arizona. Welcome to LAWGITIMATE with Mike and Rochelle Polton, where we share our legitimate perspectives on how to get ahead and stay ahead in law, business, and in life. And today's show is sponsored by X Firm, a law firm helping people improve their financial lives. And today's topic is network marketing. There are so many different types of marketing. There's social media marketing, pay-per-click, broadcast media, print. It just goes on and on and on. But today we're going to focus on network marketing and how to be successful at it. And with us, we have an awesome legitimate guest, Tisha Marie Pelletier with Tisha Marie Enterprises, where you can find her online at tishamarieNterprises.com. It is a fabulous website. Thank you for being here, Tisha. And please tell us all about you and your awesomeness.
Sure. Thank you, Rochelle and Mike, for having me on, and Karen in the background with Phoenix Business RadioX. I'm very excited to be here. Networking is my favorite topic, aside from personal branding, to talk about. I love to network. I love networking, and we'll get into why that's such a big thing. But let's see, I started in business in 2004. And when you're starting in business, you've got time and you don't have a lot of money. So having the time to network and build relationships with people is really, really key in building your business. And so I would recommend for people that networking really is for everybody, but there are definitely some right ways and wrong ways to do it as well. So I started a marketing company, had an event management company, and then was also running a mastermind for mom entrepreneurs for several years, and fell into kind of the entrepreneurial funk in 2015. I was like, what am I supposed to do? What's my purpose? Who am I supposed to serve? And I think a lot of us will go through that of just trying to find our own identity again. And now more recently, I am helping entrepreneurs, especially in the startup space, but really to get out of their own head and make things happen. And I find that's not just startups, that's established businesses too, that might have fallen into a rut of not knowing how to get out of being in the complacency zone. So very much love doing that, helping people with business mentoring and consulting, as well as hosting live events like Social Connect Phoenix, hosting a podcast called Success Over Struggle, writing books, just the gamut. It's all fun. It's all fun. Super busy, but I love everything. And you know what they say, like when you love it, it's like you're not really working, you're just having fun. And it's taken me a while to get to this point, and I can finally say that.
I think Mike and I enjoy doing 10,000 things, sometimes at the same time.
Preferably all at the same time.
All at the same time. All at the same time.
If I don't have too many projects to do at once, I'm not happy.
Yeah.
So let's go back to who should network. I think the first broadest category is obviously professionals. So people who are attorneys or dentists, things with like professional credentialing, mostly because that's how you get to know what's going on in your industry, who's in it, what are the latest and greatest updates and regulations. I think it's pretty funny when you join a networking group that sometimes you don't see a lot of those professional categories being filled. It's very rare to walk into a networking group and find an attorney. They just tend to not network, and sometimes not even with other attorneys.
Mm-hmm. Right. And
I think that's true in a lot of different fields. There are a lot of professionals who could benefit greatly from networking and just don't do it because they're in a job where the business comes to them. They feel like they don't need to have a lot of connections. And that may be true for what they're doing at the time. But when the time comes for them to shift in their careers or try to advance or move on to something else, or if it turns out that business was not going that well for their employer, they may really need to rely on a network. So it pays to put that time in and build your connections, even if you don't feel like you have to do it right now.
Sure. It has to be a part of your toolkit. Always. I mean, we talk about social media, and I know I can vouch for having a severe love-hate relationship with social media, but we can't just bury our head in the sands and just be like, it's not there. No, it's there. And you have to be able to utilize the tool and utilize it the way that's going to benefit you and build relationships, because you're right. You never know when your next opportunity is coming.
Well, I agree with that. I think the big part of it is anyone who's a small business owner. Small business owners are just constantly needing to bring in new business. If you're not growing, then you're not making it.
You're in a hobby, right? You're in a hobby. I think the good thing about, small businesses, if you are in it to build relationships, as we talk about, building relationships is key in networking. But if you are in it with this, I have to reach my quota, I have to get that dollar, like people smell that like miles and miles away.
Yeah.
And it can really hurt your reputation. It really starts to, people are like, yeah, we're done. I don't really know. I don't really need to carry that conversation on.
Commission breath.
Yes. Yes, I just heard that. Someone just wrote about that the other day. I'm like, I love that. I love how you said that. Commission breath.
That's a problem. I think that gets to a bigger issue in networking, and it's a thing we actually have on our little note sheet to talk about today, and that is among the things not to do, selling your business directly to your networking contacts, especially when you first meet them. It really defeats the purpose of networking. It is not a sales meeting. The process is relationship building and reputation establishment. It's a much more abstracted, long-term conceptual process rather than a direct sales approach. And people who come into a networking organization or who use their contacts and just try to push a product on them or a service immediately, it gets doors closed in your face real fast, and it can sour relationships. Even if they've started off well, if you try to do a hard sell to somebody who you're in a networking relationship with, usually that's going to go poorly.
Sometimes you get the low-hanging fruit pretty easily. Yeah. You get a lot of great sales.
Sure.
But it definitely hurts you in the long run.
Yeah.
Oh, sure. I can tell you some funny stories of just being in the grocery food aisle and like buying rice. My daughter's with me and people jumping out at me, like in the aisle that are like, you should sign up. You look like you'd be a great person to sell financial planning. And I'm like, what? Like it was just, I've had this happen on a couple of different occasions where I feel like I'm being stalked in stores or grocery stores. And I'm like, people, look, I am just here to buy my groceries and get out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you didn't even ask me what I want, or if I already have a business that I love, or if I'm super successful already doing what I do. Like, don't make that assumption. That was just, it's so uncalled for and it's freaky. It's scary.
Well, and usually it's misguided from the start, because when you try to do that kind of a fast, direct sell to someone who's a networking contact, it will become apparent almost immediately that you really don't understand what that person's needs and position really are. And that's it's like a record scratch moment where suddenly what seemed like a genuine nascent business relationship just comes crashing down because the person you're talking to realizes right then that you don't have a damn clue what they're about or what their situation is.
Right.
Tried to sell me in various networking groups on doing their MLM as a side business. I mean, sure, they may be doing all right with their MLM. Some of these were pretty high performing people in those organizations, and that can be a very good way for them to make money. But if they knew anything about what I do day to day and what my business is and what my professional life is like, they never would have asked, because it's obvious that that's not a fit. I simply can't do that. It doesn't fit with who I am or what my lifestyle is. There's a lot of other business that we could have done together. There are a lot of other things we both could have gained from those relationships. But when it just becomes a sales meeting and you're just pushing something like that on somebody, it does not work. You've got to build these relationships over the long run.
Yes. And can I just say too, even if people come to me, because I used to run different networking groups as well in the past, I was always referred to as Tisha's the little black book, like the black book of contacts. And I would just cringe because I'm like, is that really what you see me as? Like, I built networks. Yes, I have a network of people, but I am not about to just turn over the Rolodex because that's what I should do. And so just recently, I had a couple people reach out to me and they're like, can you tag the friends that you think want to get into this business? And I'm like, are you joking? I try to put it in context of that is not okay. That's not only making me feel uncomfortable, but I don't know their situation. I don't know if they're wanting to do another business, if they have everything figured out. So no. no, I will not. Like, and I don't know if people take offense to that because they're like, well, you're not being very helpful. Well, no, I've offered to share the message and whoever bites on it, great. But to like tag people that I think this would benefit, that goes way too far for me. And I just want to put that out there. Don't ask me. I will tell you flat out, no.
Happy to help, but not like that.
And I think that,
I think the last category of people who need to network are, independent contractors, 1099Cs, self-employed. They tend to forget that that's how they get business. We see it frequently, I think, with like landscapers and, pool cleaners that have their own small businesses that forget that you've got to network to continuously get business, even when you're busy. Because when you're busy, that's great. But if you're not still marketing, you're not going to stay busy.
Sure. Well, and I want to say too, so I'm big on LinkedIn. I love LinkedIn. And a gentleman that I am connected with said something so just profound that I want everybody to take away. He said, visibility is your currency. Visibility is your currency, especially right now. So if you're not visible and we can't find you and we don't see you, then how is that helping your business? Right? So it's just like Mike was saying, you have to invest the time in order to get something out of it. If you're coming in with just this one-sided view of, I'm going to go in, I'm going to get some business, and then I'm out, and that's going to sustain me. Okay, well, we need to have a talk about that because that's not really how it works.
Send me a postcard. It'll be just as effective.
networking.
Exactly. We're not in this disappearing game.
Networking is very different than a lot of other approaches to marketing. You look at like a pay-per-click ad campaign on the internet, that may take a couple weeks to a month or so to start getting real solid results. And in some industries, it could just be a matter of literally hours to days before you've got the leads you want out of that. But that's not how networking works. With an ad campaign, when your docket is full, in the case of a law firm, or when your crews are busy, in the case of a construction company, whatever it is that you do, when you got enough work out of it, you can just turn that off. And then when you want to do it again, you can just turn it back on. That's really handy. And that's a good tool to have, but that is not how networking works. You cannot transplant that ideology into a network approach to business acquisition because, man, if you get yourself busy from networking and you decide to cut off your networking because you're too busy, made another year or more worth of work for yourself to catch back up to where you were when you decide to turn it back on again. You got to have a flow, and you just got to keep those relationships up, even if you can't handle the work. In fact, one of the best things you can do in network marketing is turn down work because you're too busy. If your network knows that you're full and that most people can't just get an appointment with you and that you're scheduled real far out,
they still prefer.
It builds your professional credit and reputation tremendously. That's very helpful because then when you do have slots, you'll start getting that work coming in from those contacts.
Yeah, really. So we keep talking about networking in a very general perspective. So let's get into the meat and potatoes of what I mean. So first up, professional organizations are the first big chunk of networking. So like for attorneys, there's the Bar Association and a billion different committees you can join. The bankruptcy bar, the consumer rights bar. Well, that doesn't exist yet.
Association for Justice.
All
of these
things. Of course, there's hundreds of these groups and they're all aimed at attorneys getting to know other attorneys. The law changes a lot. It's helpful to have a network. But, other professional have the same kind of thing. CPAs do it. Financial advisors have it. Everybody has their own types of professional organizations and people should join them. But people who aren't part of that industry should also join them. So financial advisors joining the estate planning bar and the professional or personal injury bar would be great. You can do that as non-attorneys. Like you can go to their meetings, go to the CLE, find out what's up, see who's the big game in town. Those are really great ways to get to know other industries. I'm also a licensed realtor, so I'm in WeServe, but I help people with credit and consumer rights. So I want to know all the loan officers in that organization. So, it makes sense to be part of a realtor organization and also an affiliate member as a law firm. So I get to know all the loan officers there. But Mike, for you with networking, you kind of took a break for a few years because it didn't make sense.
And that actually not something I'll belabor for too long, because the point of this episode is to talk about where networking does make sense. But early on in the development of our firm, we were a general practice firm. We took mostly business clients and general civil litigation. And for that, networking was very useful. And I did networking at a number of BNI groups. I ended up with Networking for Change, made a lot of great friends there who I still have to this day, even though I have not done that kind of networking for several years, because it doesn't work in malpractice litigation, which is what we've been doing for a long time. You can't really get referrals for that because of a variety of dynamics that don't matter too much here, but it's not a referral-based business. So I went with advertising and was successful with straight-up advertising approaches to business acquisition. But now I'm getting back into it because we've pivoted away from that, and we're returning to a business law and asset preservation and estate planning practice. So I'm going to be reconnecting with these things. And it's part of the reason I mentioned how long it takes to rebuild a professional network, because I've got a lot of rebuilding to do.
Absolutely. It takes time. It's not overnight.
And then our last group is the general networking organizations, right? Like those are your exclusive versus non-exclusive groups. Like BNI would be an exclusive group. It's one category per industry. So you can only have, one realtor per group. Of non-exclusive, which are more like your Tempe Chambers of Commerce or any Chamber of Commerce, network together, groups that allow multiple categories of people. And then you have hybrids. So hybrid groups, like your groups, let's talk about that and why they work, because I think they cover all the pros and cons that you have of a exclusive and non-exclusive group, but some bonuses.
Sure. Well, so my group, it's a quarterly event, and right now it's postponed, of course, with COVID. So there's some workarounds around that too. Honestly, I built it out of pure and utter frustration because I think that's why entrepreneurs start stuff, because they're like, there's got to be a better way. And I remember in March 2018 going to an event, and I kid you not, it was like my own personal Twilight Zone where you're just like, I have to get out of here. And I remember being talked badly about in front of me. Like, I had just released my books. I didn't share. I'm an author. I've written a couple of books that Karen's actually in as well. Just been a big part of my story. And I had my book. I was releasing my book. I had a table, and I had a woman talk bad about me. I had a gentleman who was in the gold business come up to me and say, I hear you're like the woman with all the money. I'm like, wait a minute. Okay, this is really weird. And he was like, can you invest in my business? I'm like, what? Oh, wow. Okay. So I spent a lot of that time. Luckily, I had a girlfriend with me, and we were just like drinking wine in the corner. Like, we weren't even networking, because we were like, we just need to get out of here. And when we were leaving that event, a woman was walking in, and she said, hey, are you leaving? Here, take some of my cards. And I'm like, why? And she's like, well, because you're leaving. You should just take some cards. And I'm like, why? Sorry, my earbuds fell out. I was like, I don't really get that. I don't really get that mentality that you don't know me, I don't know you, yet you want me to just take your cards for no reason. And not only that, but it took us a while to get there. I remember it was raining, and I was like, oh, I could have just stayed home in PJs. And I just said, if I'm going to go to something, and I think I speak for a lot of people, that if you're going to go to something and spend your time, value is important. Having the value, knowing that your time is spent wisely, especially with a lot of business owners who have kids. You're leaving your family behind to go put your energy and your attention here. And if you come away going, why? Then that was not a right move for you, and I felt like that. And I said, I don't want to do this again. How can I change the dynamics? How can I challenge the status quo and create something that I actually want to go to? And I started Social Connect Phoenix, which is a quarterly event, and it used to be a monthly event. So in the first year, I was hustling, grinding every month. And I wanted to create an event where it wasn't just connections, but there was an inspirational part to it. Because I work with a lot of entrepreneurs, I find that we want to be surrounded by peers who have been there, done that, and can keep us moving forward. It's very isolating when especially if you're in a solopreneur role, you don't have employees, it's just you. And it's hard to just keep picking yourself back up. So it's so much more freeing when you can say, oh, Rochelle went through it. Oh, Mike went through it. Oh my gosh. Okay. I know I can do this. Like, it's very empowering to be in a room full of movers and shakers sharing some dang good positive vibes and their stories. So I started to do that. And in 2019 said, okay, this is a lot of work. Let's try and make this quarterly, and got Dave & Buster's. Yeah, it was a ton of work. Dave & Buster's in Tempe came on board as my official venue and sponsor, which was huge. So I was still able to offer the food, the drinks for $20, you know, and instead I added in another component, education, connections, and inspiration. So now you can learn something. I really am big into come to the event and take something away. Take several takeaways with you. So there's an educational portion in the beginning. Then I'm like, hey, take what you learned in that educational portion and use it in the connections portion to meet people. And then the last part is the Success Over Struggle live panel, which is also the podcast, but in live format, where I interview 3 entrepreneurs and their journey. And these are entrepreneurs, very much like you said, Mike, like these are people that you don't see out networking because they're very busy running their businesses. For instance, like Catherine Anaya and Brian Hill from Phoenix Fashion Week and Mike from State 48. These are busy, busy people. And I am just blessed that they're like, yeah, I'll sit there and I'll inspire the world and my, you know, with my story of failure. So I feel like it just creates such a better relationship and that human connection when we're not like, oh my gosh, that person is just awesome rock star. No, that person also went through stuff to get where they're at. And if I can just peel back the layers and tell you what they've gone through, I think you'll really appreciate that.
I love that format. That's awesome.
Yeah. So it's an event. It's an experience. It is not just come hang out on a bar with a glass of wine and eat carrot sticks in the corner. Like, it is not that. It is, come. You know, Dave & Buster's, shout out to them. They do such an amazing job with putting on a major spread that by the end of the night, they're like, take it all home. Like, it is like another 4 rounds. So you can go back through the line a couple times. But here's what I love. Like, as the event host, being able to stand back and watch the diversity in the room, people interacting, people sitting down and breaking bread together and just chatting as people, not as, what do you do for business? Here's my card, take it. In fact, business cards, I ban. I don't even allow them. I've seen people bring them and I'm like, I laugh because I have a sign. It's almost like my social connect rules of the event. And my gal that runs the desk, when people come up, she's like, Tisha, I can smell from a mile away if they've got commission breath or if they've got their business cards shoved in their pockets. And so I have this sign that says, if you're coming to this event, there's no business cards, there's no pitching, there's no recruiting, there's no hitting on people, there's none of that. Instead, focus on making like 1 or 2 really great connections and take something of value away from this event. And so I love that she says, hey, check out these rules, not if you agree. If not, then there's the door. Because if you are going to do this, you will be the outcast because everybody knows not to do those things here. And that's what I'm like, yes, that's success.
Yeah. I think there is always a good time and a place to hand someone a business card, but never like, don't shove it in my face. Like, that's a great way to end up in the trash at the end of the night because I'm nice. So I will take your card, but I'm not going to call you.
Yeah. And you know, I think, I don't know if people just are like, oh my gosh, that girl doesn't allow business cards here. Like, I've even had people ask, is she looking? Is the girl looking? The girl that runs this, is she looking? Can I hand you a card? And I've had to say at these events, I'm like, look, people, you're all grown adults. You know when the right time, or maybe you don't, but you know when the right time and the right connection where it warrants a, hey, could I follow up with you? Could we exchange numbers? Because I really like who you are. And you will know when the right time is, but it is not, hey, I just met you. Here's my card. Take it. Call me. Let's do business. Like, it's wrong. That's just the wrong way to think about it. So I don't.
Way of thinking about networking. People expect a lot more these days and age. It's so much more work.
And I'll be perfectly. The natural thing for me to want to do is immediately open a conversation with, I think we should do business together. I already know who you are and what you do, and this is how it'll fit in, and this is what I can offer, and this is what you can offer. Let's do that. But that isn't how most people actually want to be dealt with. And there are a handful of people out there like me. That approach works on me.
And me.
If it is well targeted. You got to know what's going on. You've got to have thought this through before the approach, in which case I don't mind at all. A 5-second pitch, immediate cold open. Let's make money together. Here's how we're going to do it. Absolutely. It has worked on me. And I wish that I could just do that with people.
Mm-hmm.
But the reality is networking is about the other people. It isn't about you. It is about working with other people's psychology and personalities and their wants and needs and their business situations so that you can integrate yourself and your business into what they do in a productive way. And if you can't, then maybe you made a new friend. There are plenty of people I've met through these networking groups who I have not done business with and probably never will because I just can't figure out a way for that to work. But they're great people and we hang out and we're friends now. So it can go both ways.
I have a story about that. So I met a woman who was coming to my events and before she even came to my event, when we met, it was very clear that she was in that old school way of networking of I only go if I get business. And I was like, oh, you're playing with fire. That's bad. That's a bad way of thinking. And she even said, she's like, the reason I don't go to your events is because I don't need more friends. I need business. And I was like, can I challenge you to come to the event? And I'm going to teach you a little new way of networking. And at the very end, she was like the one hanging by like the step and repeat, taking all the photos, putting her hands around people. And I was like, you see, if you come in going, I just want the business, then people are going to be like, okay, all right, I don't even want to talk to you because it's so clear what you want from me. But if you come in going, I want to get to know you. In fact, when I do a lot of these networking talks, I say that the question that I don't even like to ask people is, what do you do? Like as the first question. Hi, Rochelle, what do you do?
Yeah.
Hi, Mike, what do you do? I hate that question. You want to know why? Because so many people don't know what they do. They don't know how to say it succinctly, or they're in transition. And you've just made them feel even less if they're like, I don't even know what to say to that. Or they just want to tell you their whole life story. And at that point, you're like, that's great. I'm going to back away. Like, it's just such an uncomfortable question to ask. Instead, Rochelle, what do you love to do on the weekend? What lights you up? When did you move to Arizona? Like, so we could strike up a conversation and just get to know each other as people. So even at Social Connect, I have people write down on their name tags. I always say, answer this question for me. And everyone's got the same question. A lot of introverts who don't know how to strike up a conversation can now go, hey, Tisha had us ask, like, what's your favorite 80s movie? Well, mine is Back to the Future. What about you? So at least you can start checking in with them versus what do you do? What's your business? What do you sell? What, all that garbage. That'll come later. That comes up on the third date.
Yeah.
It's important. Exactly, Rochelle. It's important, but it is not the most important thing. The most important thing is to know who they are as a person, not as a business and as a title.
Agreed. The people that I do business with tend to be my friends. Like, yeah, we may have met at a networking group 8 or 9 years ago, but I got to know you. I got to know your business. And it's like, heck yeah. Like, will you do all of my insurance? Will you handle like all of bank with you? Like what, that's how you get, people do business with people they like. People do business with their friends. That's usually how that works. Now, not everybody can go out and be friends with everyone. And, there's only so many accounts you can have at multiple banks, right? Before you run out.
Right.
Everybody. Sometimes it's just not going to work. But, so
that's funny.
For successful networking, I think probably the most important thing you can do is do a one-to-one. A lot of people never bother to schedule a meeting with anybody in a networking group. And it's like, well, how do you know who people are? Like, you may see each other all the time, but until you've had like a 30-minute conversation, you haven't quite gotten past how was your weekend?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
And
I agree with that so much.
Yeah, a lot of networking organizations, it seems, try to emphasize getting the whole process done within their meeting structure.
Yeah.
They've got a meeting system and it incorporates all of the parts you've got to do to network, but that doesn't actually work. Even in those groups, the relationships are merely initiated at the meeting and the real work gets done elsewhere. Anybody who's doing real business with somebody in a relationship kind of a networking approach, they're meeting outside of a formal setting. And that's just how it actually operates.
It's so funny.
I agree. I think it's very forced. And the thing is too, like if you're in a networking group, like I run this happy neighborhood project, you're going to jive with people. There are people that you're going to want to connect naturally to. And yeah, you should take the time to reach out and try and grab that, what I call a virtual latte. So I think when the thing is, yeah, the virtual latte, everyone's like, we got virtual coffee. I'm like, I like latte. Like, think that's kind of fun. The thing is, I think what people get hung up on is when they go to a networking event, they're already investing so much time to go to the networking event. And then there's the follow through, which a lot of people don't do, and I always say, I know what I'm capable of. I don't know what you're capable of until you reach out to me. But it's, you know what I mean? Like, I know I will follow through, but I'd love to see if you'll follow through with me, if I'm that important for you to follow through with. And I get it. It's time. But at the same time, why go to a networking event if you're not going to take the steps after the post-production, right? To follow through with people and meet them. And that's the biggest challenge. And that's why people don't see their businesses building, because they're running around doing all this networking with no result because they're not willing to put in the extra time. And so I think that the stigma of, well, I've had 50,000 coffee dates, I'm so caffeinated. Well, no, you can do something like Zoom. It's okay. You don't have to travel all around the country and the world to have coffee with someone. You can easily just do a 30-minute call, and they'll respect that too, because it's their time as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I can tell you what, after, now that everything's virtual and Zoom and all of the meeting rooms are so convenient, it's like, I am never meeting you for coffee. Like, I don't have a drive time scheduled anymore. Like, I do not have time going anywhere compared to what I'm doing now. So 30 minutes, that's what we got, because I don't have
that is all. Yes. And you're not having to spend money on coffee, and we're still on the same gas tank from weeks ago. Like, it works out.
60 days ago.
I
haven't left my house.
Crazy.
I also think the other thing that's really important is attendance. Like, you've got to keep going to the groups that you sign up for. If you forget to go, then no one remembers you.
It's the same thing I say, even in like building a personal brand, right? Like, you can show up and you can expect your post to go viral, but that's probably not going to be the case. So there's got to be a level of consistency. People build trust with people because you're consistent. And if they keep seeing you and they keep seeing your message and they keep seeing it, that's how the relationship starts to form. So a lot of the tips that I share, Mike and Rochelle, are really meant for online and offline. So how are you networking offline as well as online? Because a lot of those same principles apply, right? So it's not just, like you see probably on LinkedIn, you'll get a lot of people that just send you a connection request with no message. And I always say this in my speeches. I'm like, how would you feel if I just sat and stood next to you and just stared at you and I didn't say one word? You'd be like, creeper. I'm like, you haven't said the most basic thing, and that is hi. Like, how about we start with that? So I have several connection requests on LinkedIn, but the people that get to the top of my list are people who actually said, hi, Tish, I read your profile. I love what it says, or I just saw your post. I'd really like to meet you or connect with you. Awesome. You're in.
Yeah.
The other people, and maybe months before I get to you.
Absolutely.
I like that approach.
I like the point you make about the approaches to online networking being pretty much the same as in-person networking. And
hi.
Yeah, I think it gets back to the point that networking is about working with other people's psychology. It isn't so much about the format. It's not where you meet them, what you're doing, how your meeting is structured. What matters is how you manage that interpersonal relationship so that you make another person feel good about who you are and what you do. That's the point.
That is it.
Pretty, spot on.
Yeah. Well, and as I said, like, if you are doing things consistently, so I do this convo in my Camry every single week, like Thursdays and Fridays, I release this just little car talk in my Camry. And I have been doing it for so long that people recognize me. Like, I'll be out at an event. They're like, you're that convo in your Camry girl, aren't you? I'm like, yep, that's me. It's done really well, but I always say that a lot of times, if you look at the views, there's so many more views than there are likes and comments. So always remember that there are a lot of people that are watching your stuff, but they're maybe not in the time to comment or like it. But if they keep seeing you, eventually they're going to reach out to you, and I can just be a testimony to that for just several people that I've met, where they kept watching, and then they were like, I'm going to meet this girl. I'm going to actually go a little further and connect with her and actually say something, but I encourage you, like, one of the best tips I can share is that on your social media, especially like on LinkedIn, you're getting a lot of second and third connections that are looking at your stuff and even taking the time to comment. So a great rule of thumb is to now go through and start connecting with those people and thanking them for the comment and the time they spent on your post. Because, hey, it's reciprocal. I really, really appreciate that. I would love to connect with you and start the conversation. Then it makes it a lot easier to get to that one-on-one virtual latte that we talked about, to start building the relationship.
Absolutely. Very good advice.
Solid.
Yeah. People miss it though.
Yeah, they do. The other part about, if you've been in a networking group for, longer than 3 or 4 months and you haven't gotten any referrals, you got to ask, have you given any referrals?
Yeah.
You got to remember that this is a give and take relationship. And sometimes referrals are a one-way street, right? Like if you give a referral to your real estate agent, they may never, ever be able to give you a referral simply because there's no good opportunity for that. Now, obviously, if you're in construction or, home design or something, you guys are going to have a great relationship. But for a lot of people, when you've been in a group, if you've never given a referral to anyone in the group, it's like, go ahead and scan your network. People need other services. It's okay to refer other people. And even as attorneys, Mike and I have a lot of ethical obligations in how we do referrals, but it's not that hard.
Yeah, there are plenty of ways to pass business to people in a lot of different fields. And it doesn't necessarily have to be part of your main line of work. And frequently it is not. In the networking groups that I've been involved in, frequently I've been unable to give someone a direct referral because I don't need it, or for one reason or another, I can't make that referral to a client. But I know somebody who might need some of their services completely outside of my business, or somebody else is asking for another friend, and it ends up being a third or fourth party referral. But either way, you have business to them, and that's what counts.
There is nothing wrong with that. And that, and you're right. You can't expect that everybody is going to have a direct referral for you. But I say that there's a lot of opportunities that come, that may then become more business for you.
Yes.
So I am a big fan of The Go-Giver. I don't know if you two have read the book, The Go-Giver. Have you ever read it?
No.
Oh, it's so good. It spoke to me so much, and it's a very short read. I encourage everybody to read it, but it really talks about being your authentic self. And when we talk about networking, it's not about reaching the quota. It's about putting people first. And there's this really great quote in there that says something to the extent of, your goal is not to, maybe that person that you're working with is not going to do business with you, but because they like you, they respect you, and they want to see you succeed, and you also want to see them succeed, they become your walking, talking ambassadors. They're constantly lifting you up. And I see that so many times over. And I love to be able to give opportunities to people. And maybe it's not a paid thing, or maybe it's an opportunity to gain some exposure, like a speaking gig, but you have no idea what that's going to lead to. So I always say, plant the seed and see where that leads. Right. So that book is just, I would pass that out. I love that book. I share so many quotes, especially around the networking, because people have the wrong mentality. They have the wrong idea about how to make it work for them. And then they give up and they're like, it didn't work. I'm like, it's because you made it about you. That's why.
Networking is about building your network, of professionals and people that you know and like and can potentially do business with. It's not about selling to them. That's the biggest thing. It's no, you want them to be your advocate, right? You want to be top of mind when they hear someone who needs something that you do. And the only way you're going to be top of mind is if they know who you are and what you do. I refer so many people to so many other people that maybe I haven't talked to in a while, but usually the people that get referred to the most are the people that I see all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm gonna also add to that, Rochelle, that I've had a colleague of mine who he was very well connected, but because he didn't feel like he was getting anything from his connections, he decided to hold his connections hostage, which is another way that is very wrong. Like I want to connect people. Why? Because when I see you doing business with that person, it makes me smile because I was the one that brought you two together and I saw magic sparks happen. That's what makes me happy. So when you get into this, I help people succeed or get connected, it doesn't matter if I got something out of that. I got the joy of knowing I connected two really great people that needed to meet. And I was the person that was able to do that. Like, so this whole thing of, well, I don't get anything. I've connected them millions of times. Well, okay. I'm sorry. Like, what do you want me to say about that? But you holding your connections hostage, I say that's a pretty stupid move. Because when you help somebody else, I think they'll come back to help you or, support you in whatever you're doing.
Absolutely.
Wrong mentality.
That is an excellent point, and it's very short-sighted for people to think otherwise. And I think the way you mention it, the way you describe this as being a giving process, and the focus is on connecting other people and helping them succeed in what they're doing, is critical for people to understand. But even if someone is only thinking about themselves and their own business, it's still in your best interest to continue to help out and connect those people who have never given you a referral and where you can't even see a possibility for them to do it, because you never know what they may run into 10 years down the road, 5 years down the road, who else they may meet, what business opportunity, what life-changing business opportunity or investment opportunity they may be able to bring your way, something that's totally outside their line of work and your line of work. But having friends who do things is important. People who are movers and shakers, people who get stuff done, who are doing any kind of business, who are making some kind of action out there, you want those people to know you and like you. Even if you don't see a way for it to benefit you today, you got a mover and shaker on your team, and that counts for a lot.
Yes. Credibility.
This is a long term. This is a marathon. I don't know if we've established that, but it is not just a short term goal or thing.
It's permanent.
Yes.
Forever and ever. Goes on forever. So one of the problems about people who may not be getting business doing networking, you got to know your business. You have to be able to articulate what it is that you do, what it is that you are selling, and who your customers are. People say things like anybody, everybody, somebody. You might as well say nobody. I've got nobody in my head for you. Not a good descriptor. You got to know what to sell.
Not actionable intelligence.
No, not helpful. Anybody who has skin. Terrible commercial for a dermatologist.
Yeah,
you've got to be so crystal clear on that. And here's the thing I'll say too, that when we go to these networking events, whether they're hybrids or industry specific or whatever, the whole get up and laundry list of everything you do, like, hi, I'm Tisha and I'm at XYZ, and this is how you contact me. I stopped listening at your Tisha. That's it. I don't even know who you are. And so here's my big advice.
Remember what you do.
Well, okay, especially if you've had to sit through 50 other people who've said that in a 30-second time span. You're like, I don't remember the first person and I still don't even remember the last person. So is it really, again, let's go back to it. Is it really an effective use of your time? Right? So I always say, if you're going to get into a networking event, and this goes back to what you're saying, Rochelle, about your message, talk to the people, like be so dang specific about the people that you want to work with. Like I remember I was at a chamber meeting years and years ago and I was running my marketing company and every single person, same, right? And I was like, I'm going to try something a little different. Like I'm a little bold, ballsy like that. I'm like, I'm going to get up and I'm going to ask questions. When you ask a question, people are like, oh yeah, that's me. Oh yeah. So my question was, are you having a hard time with this marketing thing? Do you feel like you're just throwing your dollars at the wall, hoping they stick? Like, I'm asking those pain point questions, which is what marketing is. Like, let's get to the bottom of how you solve my problem, right? So if you can pinpoint it as if you're talking to just like one person in the room, what happens? That one person beelines it to talk to you after because they're like, you said something, and that's what I remembered the whole time when 50 other people were sharing their stuff. I just remembered I wanted to talk to you. Hey, that's law of attraction.
That's very effective. And really the top, probably like the top 3 ways to get people to talk to you after a networking event is to have a really poignant commercial, essentially. I love the asking the question part. I do it pretty frequently. It's very effective.
Yeah. You see people like wearing costumes or like Dolly the Steamboat, she's always in costume. Like that gets people like, oh, I wonder what they're about. They're interesting. They're an interesting character. Yeah. I want to go meet that person. Yeah. It's so,
peacocking.
I talk about that a lot. It's personal branding.
Yes.
I hate to say that. It's not your business. It's who you are and how you present yourself out there and how you make people feel.
Well, that dovetails perfectly with another point that we've got on our list, which is who should be doing the networking for your business? And the answer, I think we all agree, is you should be. You are the only person who can effectively network because it isn't your business's network. It's yours personally. We were talking about this before the show, and there are so many reasons for it.
You can hire somebody, but honestly, if you're not willing to pay like 6 figures, you need to do it yourself. So if you don't have $100 that you can pay someone to do sales for you, you're looking at doing it yourself.
And the bottom line with that is that the people who have the skill set that is required to do this type of networking and to just cold open one-on-one with established business owners and professionals, those are people who have a refined skill set that is worth a lot of money. They're capable of making a lot of money doing a lot of different things. So you have to pay a lot of money to do it for you. And
to be effective.
And to be effective at it. And in large part, as a small business owner startup, you can't afford that. Nobody can afford that. It doesn't make sense to pay someone enough money to get the quality of network business development that is required. And if you do, it is their network.
Not yours.
Built it, not yours.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yes. So even if you do have a sales staff to do network marketing, it is not a substitute for doing your own networking. You need your own networking. In fact, if you're going to hire somebody to do that kind of marketing for you and you're going to do a good job of it, you're going to have to hire them through network marketing. You're going to have to meet that person through your network.
Oh my gosh. I'm so happy that you said that. I have a friend that she was always the face of the company just because that was her, but she wasn't the owner of the company. And the owner started to get a little bit jealous. Green envy going on of, well, you're getting all the opportunities. And she's like, but I'm the one always out there on your behalf. Like it was the organization, but they're building relationships with me. Therefore, they want to work with me. So when you step in, they don't know you. And that's the big disconnect. So I highly encourage you. Yes, if you're going to take the time to build a business, you have to be the business. You have to be the face of the business. And I would say the same thing, honestly, Mike, on social media, because there's a lot of people who do great things on social media. Their messages are on point because they're speaking so authentically. How they write on social media is how they talk. And I'm the same way. Like you see me, I'm the same person publicly, professionally, and personally. Same person. So there's been a lot of discussion of these people with these amazing followings, and they post something and it's like 1,000 comments an hour later, right? And they're like, I take the time, even though it takes me time to go through and actually comment back. And no, I don't want to hire someone to speak on my behalf. No, I don't want someone else to go in and just keep building my network. Because how crazy is that? If you meet that person and like, yeah, thanks so much for that comment. And you're like, I have no idea what you're talking about. They're sharing a personal story and your VA is like, oh, that's so nice. Like, and you're like, oh crap. Like I just dug myself into a deep hole because it's not me talking to you, but you think it is.
That is a perilous situation
to fall into.
And the situation you mentioned with somebody hiring someone who ends up becoming the visible face of their small company, that is a perilous situation for both the business owner and that employee. As an attorney and business consultant, my likely recommendation for somebody in that situation would be an equity deal. That person needs to have some ownership. That should have been established before. But their primary compensation should be distributions. It should be equity. And it may be painful to give up some of your company, but it's the only way that someone in that kind of a position can be appropriately incentivized and captured by your organization. It doesn't mean it's the best approach, but if you're going to go that route, it probably
what you're looking at.
Needs to be an equity arrangement.
And if you're building that business and that person, you understand, I mean, they're working on your behalf for that organization. You have the same goals, you have the same vision and mission, hopefully, you know, but like, don't look at that person as a threat. Think of them as, you know, as a positive to your organization. They're an ally. Exactly. They're moving your business ahead.
You know, they can't be looking to build their network on your time so they can jump ship later. They've got to be absolutely.
That does happen.
They've got to be looking at enough deferred compensation through equity in your company or some kind of a profit sharing agreement that they want to pay and that they want to be committed to what you're doing.
Right.
And I think, as we were mentioning earlier, for most small businesses, it doesn't pay to do that. It's not even a deal.
It's like not even an option.
Yeah, it's part of your job as the owner of the business, as the entrepreneur, to get out there and build your network yourself.
That should be one of those rules. Like when people say, like, what does it take to be a business owner? I'm like, well, you're going to have to get out and network. You're going to have to start meeting people. You're going to have to invest your time.
Yeah.
You know,
if you don't, that left. It's 24/7.
Truly with some perks here and there, but your time is going to be put into the business, and it may not always be the ROA that you're looking for, like right then and there, but it's that planting. It's my good friend Joseph says it's planting, nurturing, and harvesting.
Yes.
And so many people miss that nurture stage. They miss it completely. And that's where the money is. That's where your growth comes in.
Yep. Absolutely. That's where exponential growth happens.
And it's a learning process. The most valuable thing that I have gained through networking, aside from the personal friendships, has been knowledge and understanding of how other people's businesses work and what it's like to be in their profession, what it's like to be in their line of work, what works, what doesn't, seeing people whose businesses fail, watching them fail. It's painful, but that's part of networking and part of being with entrepreneurs. You will see many businesses fail around
95%.
Yes. And that is invaluable experience to watch it happen in real time, even though it's in some ways terrifying to watch somebody go down like that.
Yeah.
The best learning experience you can get as a small business owner. And you only get if you're hanging out with other people in the same boat.
Yep. The fear together.
Yes.
And the success.
Absolutely.
Just quick story, success over struggle. It really is like, send me the SOS. Like that's my version of SOS. So I need the life jacket. I need the lifesaver. I need it all. I'm like drowning. And your network is really the people that are going to help you. They're going to be the ones why? Because they understand everything that you're going through, because they too are in it themselves, or maybe they're further ahead than you, but they've gone through it too.
Oh, yeah.
So keep that in mind, that sometimes your hubby not going to get it. Well, Mike, you get it for Rochelle, but I'm saying, like, my hubby
in that respect.
Yeah. Well, but my husband works for the city. Like, he doesn't know any different than punch in, punch out. Like he's like on the retirement plan, right? Like he's like, I'm just buying my time and getting out. I'm like, you don't understand all that goes on behind the scenes, all the headspace that I find myself in, the constant conferences with myself, talking to myself. Like, you don't get it. It's a lot. So you need to surround yourself with a network of people who get you, all of you, Absolutely. And they're not judging you. They understand you and they're there to help you.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely.
Judgment-free zone.
Yes.
That's awesome. Love it.
No bullies.
I think the last part about networking that really kind of focus on is ROI, the return on your investment. a lot of people you can do networking full time. Phoenix is an awesome place to network. There's so many groups every day of the week, every hour of the day, morning, noon, and night. You got to calculate whether or not it's worth it. Yes, relationships are important, but you can't afford to go to coffee every week with your friends if you're not getting anything out of it. You have to calculate your time. Your time has an actual cost associated with it. You can't value it at zero. Like you have to in the beginning, but eventually it does matter. You have to stop and think if you're networking all the time, wait, is this group worth it? Like, am I actually getting something out of it? And you have to take into account the benefits that aren't monetary as well. Maybe it's good for your reputation. Maybe it's good marketing, whatever. And maybe you don't get actual referrals from it, but it benefits you in some other way. But sometimes it's just a simple, I've never gotten a referral. I have no one in this group I can refer to. Maybe this isn't a good fit. It's okay to do that analysis. In fact, you have to.
And it's always going to be somewhat nebulous, I think.
Yeah.
A number of groups like BNI try to have a rigid system of metrics so that people can prove to themselves, I think, is the main point. They can prove to themselves that this is actually working. And that's fine if you need to prove to yourself in dollars and cents that it's working. But the reality is that in most more advanced and better approaches to networking, you're not going to be able to calculate an exact number. You're going to have to be loose about it. But you do need to do the analysis on an activity by activity basis to determine whether it really seems to be worth your time. But you can't forget to incorporate into that all of those long-term nebulous future benefits that we've been discussing throughout this, of who you know for how long, who you've done favors for over the course of your career, and whether that single janitorial services person or handyman might end up getting you a multi-million-dollar deal. Never know. And you've got to think about all those things, but that doesn't mean you should keep pouring your time into things that are very time-consuming and burdensome if you're not getting some kind of result.
Just stay friends with those people.
Yes.
I was just going to say that. Exactly. If you like people from the group, then there's nothing that says you can't keep connected and checking in and still doing lunch offline or whatever, just to keep, because you do develop some great friendships when you network. But you're right. Like maybe the group isn't for you, or maybe you've moved on, or maybe there's something else. You can't just keep spinning your wheels in your time. You don't have a lot of it. So if you belong to one or two groups, be consistent in those groups. Make an informed decision if that group, if that group is going to be a good fit for you. But I meet those people, the serial networkers, where I'm like, oh, it's you again. I see you at every single event I go to. But yet they don't feel like their business is moving. Well, I'm going to also say that you're probably not taking the time to, what's that important thing? Nurture the relationship. Follow up is so key, and people just fail to do it. I hate to say that. I feel like a broken record, but if you don't do the follow up, it's not going to happen for you. Like you're spinning your wheels and you're wasting your time. Right.
Doing the beginning part over and over and over again.
You're like stuck in Groundhog Day. Like you need to move.
You keep saying hi. You haven't got past hi. Never water. That's what's happening.
I know. I feel like, oh my gosh, I just want to sit people in a room and go, here it is. This is what you need to know. This is what you need to do. Actually, I already do that. I do some networking talks. So yeah, is there a science to it? Yes. There's steps that you need to have. You need to be doing some things consistently and so forth. And yeah, I love networking. Like I build my business on it. So it works. It's important.
So Tisha, thank you for being on the show. Please tell our listeners how they can get a hold of you.
Of course. So you mentioned you can go to my website at Tisha Marie. I have a couple. TishaMarie.com is probably the easiest, just my first name and middle name. And also I do virtual lattes as well. So if people are interested in connecting with me, they can schedule a virtual latte with me. And it's just the bit.ly/virtual latte with Tisha. So that link will lead you right to my calendar. I have several fun things. When people go to my website, I have the Gal's Inspirational Guide to a More Purposeful Life. And it's a collection of closing thoughts. It's an ebook that I wrote several years ago that I just revamped. And that's just fun. It's quotes for business owners and just individuals in general on leading a good life.
I love it.
Excellent.
I love it. It's such a fun conversation. Networking.
Yeah, thank you. Networking.
We networked with Tisha while doing our podcast.
Yes. I've never met Mike before, and I've only met Rochelle once. So we have to learn a little bit more about each other. If I can say one other thing, I do host the Happy Neighborhood Project, and it's happening every Thursday at 11 a.m. I'm the lead for it. And it's virtual networking, and you get to meet more people from Phoenix, but also across the country. And it's actually a national group. They have 13 groups every week that are meeting. So if you're looking for networking opportunities right now to meet people in a Zoom setting with breakout rooms, then that's a great opportunity to strike up a conversation, meet some new people while we're in COVID right now.
Seriously.
Excellent. Well, that's a really good resource. And thank you again for being on the show. We really appreciate it. I think this was very useful for us and for our audience.
Good.
So go ahead and close us out.
So I'm Rochelle Polton with X Firm. We help people with financial crisis. We do financial consulting, credit repair, debt settlement, and bankruptcy. And you can reach us at 480-305-0603.
And I'm Mike Polton with the law firm Polton & Naroyan. We help small businesses start themselves and keep themselves afloat. I also provide business consulting through Polton Consulting Services, and you can find us online at pnlaw.pro. That's P like Paul, N like Nancy, LAW.pro.
So thanks, you guys, and join us next time. We will be covering how to succeed in network for multi-level marketing with Kenyatta Turner and Legal Shield.
Making MLMs work for you.
Right? If you're going to do them, you might as well know how to do them right.
Do it right.
That's great too.
Thank you, Phoenix, and we'll talk to you next time.
Broadcasting live from the Business RadioX studios in Phoenix, Arizona, it's time for Phoenix Business Radio, spotlighting the city's best business